Hey ladies, welcome to True Talk Tuesday. We're just about to our bar method class, and I wanted to, so I'll pick up the phone in just a few minutes and answer questions and speak with you guys, but in the meantime, I didn't want to be too late. Just took us a few minutes to round ourselves up and get out of the house. I wanted to talk to you guys today about boundaries. I feel like we've talked about this a little bit before, but it's just been something that I've really been thinking about lately because I've had to really set some serious boundaries in my own life. I have made it a point to stand up for myself. Like, if somebody makes me feel bad, I stand up for myself now. And like before, I would just like kind of like take it and be like, whatever, you're just being a jerk, or whatever the situation is. Like maybe it's a family member or whatever. You know, like the whole respect your elders type of thing, blah, blah, blah. Well, not that I'm trying to tell you guys like to be disrespectful to people, but if somebody's going out of their way to make you feel bad, I'm giving you permission to stand up for yourself. I'm giving you permission to be like, I'm unavailable for this. I'm unavailable for the way you make me feel. I'm unavailable for you to be you know, you can even say I'm unavailable for you to be a part of my life. Like, I've had to eliminate or reduce contact with family members who are so negative. I guess negative would be the right term. Who are so negative in the things that they say to me, in the things that they say regarding how I choose to do things, how I'm choosing to have a business. Like, I've had some family members tell me like, hey, like, I like to follow your stuff on Facebook, you know, because I like to see the stuff about the kids, but I think your business stuff is stupid and I don't really want to see it. And this particular person, I couldn't just be like, you know, hey, F off. Oh, hey, Kimberly. Yeah, you've had to do it too. Yeah, I mean, it's just funny to me. I guess the thing that's the funniest, and not like haha funny, like a funny joke, it's really interesting to me how people are so bold and so brazen that they are wanting to interject their unsolicited opinions on you. Like, I had a friend of my mom, and she's been my mom's friend for, I don't know, 30 years or something. She's a total alcoholic, and so my parents didn't come down, and they haven't met Maddie yet. He's 18 months old this week. And so this woman, who I never speak to unless I happen to see her at like my sister's wedding once, you know, however often people get married, which isn't very often, she sent me like this Facebook post about how I needed to load up my newborn baby, he was like 3 or 4 weeks old, and my toddler, and drive 1,000 miles across the country so that my mom could see the baby. And I don't know if it was like postpartum hormones or just having had enough. It infuriated me. I basically ended up telling her to F off. Like, I'm pretty sure I did. And granted, this is like almost a year and a half ago now, but I unfriended her on Facebook. I just was like, I am completely unavailable for this garbage. Like, my mom could get a flight from where she lives into California for $40. Like, she could get one of those cheap Allegiant flights for $40. So for her to say, for me to pack up my child, who was like fresh hatched, put him in a car and drive across the country. Like, one of my children is like potty training. So like, do you know how long it would take to have to stop with a 4-year-old and an infant to drive 1,000 miles? So it's normally a 16-hour drive-ish. If you just get in, go, grab your coffee, stop to pee, drive through, whatever. It probably would have taken me 2 damn days to drive there with that, with these guys. Not to mention I have a freaking farm that I have to look after, that my husband and I look after. And so we have to have somebody to come take care of that. So I am steadfast in that. I was like, hell no, I'm not going. And even then, like, my mom was like, you unfriended, such and such. And I was like, yeah, she's an asshole. Like, who who says that? She's like, well, you could come visit us and see our new house. And I was like, look, I'm still at the point where it's like, it'd be $1,000 each way for us to fly because we don't fly Allegiant. And we'd have to go into LA, which is 3 hours from here. Not that big of a deal. But I was just like, no. Lugging my kid, I'm going on vacation to places that I want to go. Like, I want to go to Hawaii, so we went to Hawaii. We're going to Hawaii for Maddie's 2nd birthday, or right around that time. And so I finally just was like, nope. If you guys want to, it's just easier for them because my mom doesn't work; she's retired. So I was like, it's easier for you to come down here as one person than for us to lug an entire family up there. Plus, my parents smoke, and I just can't allow my children to stay in a home with smokers. I know she doesn't understand that, and we've argued about it. I've recently had to put up some distance even there, because she doesn't understand where I'm coming from, that I think it's not okay to smoke around children. So there's this whole thing, obviously not just to air my dirty laundry to you guys or whatever, but I want you guys to know that even people who you see on Facebook, we all have these issues. We all have the things that go on. We all have people in our lives who bring negativity to us. And that includes in your business too. I know it's probably sometimes harder to set the boundaries with your family. But I've done it. I've had to do it. I've had to just be like, okay, I can no longer, put forth the effort because it makes me feel bad. I can no longer continue to put myself in situations where I just end up feeling bad, or, the things that you do hurt my feelings. So I've decided that I'm just removing myself from those situations. And even though it can be a little bit trying and it's not easy to do those things, at the end of the day, it's been the best decision that I've ever made. So even in your business, okay, so think about your workplace. So obviously all of you guys have probably had a job at some point in your life, I'm assuming, especially since now you're business owners, right? Think about all the coworkers that you've had over time, or maybe even your boss, him or herself, right? You maybe had somebody who was not nice to you, who was unkind to you, who maybe you've worked in a situation where you worked with a bunch of women and it was like a catty clique or something, and they picked on you or they were mean to you. Or we've all experienced something like that. I feel like if you haven't, you're super, super fortunate. But I've had shitty coworkers. I've even, not my last employer, but I've had a shitty boss in the past. And there's really nothing you can do about it. You still have to show up. You could get a new job, but that's not overly ideal, because at the end of the day, there's a chance that you're going to have another shitty coworker or mean coworker or whatever. So we usually just, that's employee mentality. We usually just shut up and take it. Sometimes we stand up for ourselves, and then sometimes that backfires because some people are so dramatic that they make, an even bigger deal out of what's already going on. But in our businesses, the cool thing about being our own boss, the cool thing about running our own business, is that we get to choose who we work with. We get to choose who we collaborate with. A lot of times I get asked, even for my mastermind, I have a quote unquote application. And it's not an application you're applying for a job. It's an application hey, let's get on the phone, let's talk, and see if it's a good fit, because I don't want to work with everybody. Pretty much I think everybody who's in this community, I feel would be a good fit. But, oftentimes when you're in an online space, you get people who are unknown to you. You get people who are strangers. And, sorry guys, I'm parking. And you may not be aligned with what their goals are. They might not be a good fit to work with you. And I want you guys to all know that it's okay to tell somebody, give it to them straight and tell them, all right, now I'm parked. You get to tell them, I'm not the best person to help you with your goals, whatever they are. And, yeah, hell yeah, Kimberly. Yeah. You get to choose. So the cool thing is like, when you're doing, that's kind of like, I feel like the whole idea behind discovery calls. And I feel like a lot of people feel like you get somebody on a discovery call and you just have to like sell them. That's not how I use discovery calls. Like, yeah, it's a good way to introduce and share your product. It's a good way to introduce and share your offer. But at the end of the day, I'm interviewing you guys. Like, I'm interviewing them. I want to know, do I want to spend the next 6 months in that person's energy? Are they a good fit? Like, maybe they're starting a business that I have no idea about, right? Like, I mean, yeah, granted, for the most part, business is business. Or maybe they are starting a business that is in a field that, ethically, for whatever reason, I'm not aligned with those values. Or maybe they're starting a business, just throwing it out there, that's political, like on a, like politically related. And maybe I don't support that candidate and it would be hard for me to get on board with whatever their mission is, whatever that is, right? That's my choice. And I'm so excited to be able to, do that, because it'll be just a second, Easton, because I feel like even like when I was doing health coaching, I would just help anybody, right? Like, yeah, like I know that this workout or this, choice of different workouts and this nutrition thing would be everybody can benefit from eating better. And please stop. Thank you. Everybody can benefit from eating better. But sometimes I would get with people who drained the life out of me, who when I was done speaking with them, I was like, good Lord, can I just refund the $30 that I made? Because then it was like, oh, well, I can no longer afford this, blah, blah, blah. But then I was still felt obligated to have to coach them for free. So sometimes I would coach somebody for a year, having either made $0 or having made, $29.97 or something. And I started to resent my business. So by not setting up boundaries in your business, that it's okay to say no to work with people. Like, I used to feel like I had to say yes to everybody. I used to, and part of that's employee mentality. When your boss asks you to do something, you have to say yes for the most part. Kimberly says, absolutely. That's what a discovery call is for. It's not about the sale. You shouldn't work with somebody that you are not aligned with. I have tried that and it's a disaster. Yes, it's such a disaster. And they're not getting the best of you and they're driving you crazy perhaps. Been there, done that. Know the feeling. So funny. Refund the money. Yeah. And it's okay to be like, look, I'm going to refund you the money because I don't feel like sorry, I've been like sneezy today. I don't feel like we're a good fit or whatever. But I feel like when we're just starting out in business, we're so excited to get that income coming in and we're so excited to get the ball rolling and we're so excited to grow our business, grow our list, grow our reach, that we're afraid to say no, that we're afraid to turn somebody down. So with Kimberly, she interviewed me to be on her podcast, right? She could have very well been like, girl, I'm sorry, but you're not a good fit for this type of show. I wouldn't have been put out. I would have been like, oh, okay, not a good fit. She's got a different message to deliver or whatever. It worked out that we were a good fit for each other. And she's even going to be on the Moms Making Money show here coming up. So it's something that's so simple. It's like, when you put it like that, oh yeah, it's really no big deal to set that boundary and to be like, okay, it's just not a good fit. But sometimes when we're in the act of it, when we're putting things into motion and we're just getting started, right? I'm going to turn the car back on. We still have a little bit of time before my class. But when you're just getting started, you feel like I have to sell to anybody. I have to sell to everybody. But that almost too defeats the entire point of doing all your foundation work and of having an ideal client, because it's like, maybe you work with postpartum women. It's okay to tell a guy, no, you can't help him, or, whatever. You don't have to feel obligated to help every person. Or maybe you're not comfortable helping a certain woman because you're not even sure you can get her the results. And that's important to you. Would you please stop kicking me? Thank you, sweetheart. He's probably like, oh my God, this lady. The other one's sleeping. So I feel like a lot of times we're afraid to say no. We're afraid to stand up for ourselves. We're afraid that, I mean, we already are afraid a lot of times going into business, going into motherhood, going into new workplaces, new ventures, whatever. We're already a little bit intimidated, or maybe have those self-doubts, or like that kind of inner shit talker girl, like in our heads, like, hey, you know, like you have to worry about what other people think. So we already go into it with that. And I feel like, even though it's easy at times to be like, okay, I don't care what other people think, sometimes it still creeps in on us. I feel like it's just part of being human. But being able to set those boundaries and stand up for yourself, and not just allow people to treat you like a doormat or take advantage of you. Like, you know, like say like today I had a call and it was, you know, just a free 15-minute strategy session that I offer, you know, which is like my no pitch call, whatever. I just give somebody a tip, and then if they choose to want to learn how to work with me later, then we talk about it either if time permits or on a separate call. And I have set boundaries. You know, it's a 15-minute call, so if you're not there by 5 or 6 minutes into the call time, I hang up. Like, it's nothing personal at all. It's nothing personal, but my time is valuable. Like, you know, like that's why I only do 15-minute free calls, not 30, not 60, because I don't want to block off my whole day for people who don't value that free time. And, you know, ultimately my gift to them of giving them a useful tool that they can implement into their business. So, you know, that was something that I learned from one of my coaches. Like, if you don't show up for your call, at least, you know, obviously I understand, like sometimes I'm 2 minutes late, or, you know, my clock is set to, you know, and we're off by a few minutes. I totally get all that. But if you're in, you know, if you're intentionally a no-show, which I think is super rude, by the way, or you just, you know, you're overly late, I've set that boundary in my business that I hang up the phone and you've lost your chance, right? If there's an extenuating circumstance, I'm happy to, you know, work with people. But like I said, if you're 8 minutes late to a 15-minute call, what's the point of even doing it anyways at that point? So maybe you guys, now that I can like stop and read, what are some of the things that you guys have felt like you wished that you had a boundary around, but you've given in and kind of just, you know, didn't stand up for yourself? Is it, you know, do you have stuff going on? You know, obviously have to tell any details or whatever. Do you have something going on with like a personal person in your life, a family member, a friend, whatever? Do you have something going on in your business where you feel obligated to have to help people, but it's like causing resentment and you really wish that you could tell them no? I'm trying to think of different other circumstances, maybe like with a boss or a colleague or whatever. Like, I know that there was a lady who, she didn't work directly for me. Please stop. Sorry, this kid loves to kick the back of my chair. And she was so mean to everybody. I often said that she was like the queen from Alice in Wonderland, you know, like off with their heads. That was her like type of demeanor. And finally one day it wasn't even standing up for myself. I was just standing up for everybody else. I was like, look, you're being so rude. And like, I had to talk to her and be like, you can't act that way to people, you know. And I'd had permission from my boss to do this. It's like, you can't act that way to people. Like, people want to quit, people want to leave, and this is not Alice in Wonderland. This is not off with their heads. This is like, we're humans. These people are human. They have things going on, and we have to be sympathetic to that. I mean, so I almost felt kind of like a mama bear in that situation. Oh, hold on. Let me see what Heather says. I'm working with a new distributor that has canceled or no-showed 3 meetings, but needs a bunch of help. So you're supporting them, Heather? I'm supposed to meet with her again today. If she doesn't show up again, I'm done. But I feel bad at the same time. Heather, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. I mean, unless she has like like emergency situation, like her kid was in the hospital or she was in the hospital or whatever, like, I feel like she's not taking you seriously as a business person, right? I have a story that's kind of similar to that. There was a local group home in our community, Heather, and my sister was an administrator there, so she had asked me, like, hey, would you be willing to come on as our nutritionist, you know, our dietitian, because I'm a certified clinical nutritionist. And I was like, yeah, sure. I had met with I guess it's like the boss lady in November. She hired me. We had agreed to a rate, we'd agreed to a set amount of hours, we'd agreed to all the terms, and we'd even agreed to when I would start, which was going to be kind of like after the holidays, which worked perfect for me. We agreed on pretty much everything. She ended up resigning, and her predecessor still reached out to me and was like, hey, this woman resigned, we'd still like to have you come on board. They strung me along, and ultimately it was like 5 hours a week for each of their little places, whatever. It ended up being like a minimum of $2,000 a month that I would have had. They strung me along for 4 months. Like, they sent me down to do my fingerprints. They sent me out, you know, like all my background checks, everything, like got me all set up. And then all of a sudden they just stopped returning my stuff, like my emails, and stopped reaching out. And I was like, hey, like, what the heck? Like, I was like, I finally reached out and I stood up for myself. I was like, obviously I'm not going to work with you guys anymore, but how unprofessional are you guys? Like, like, this is super uncool. Like, I'm going to send you an invoice for my time and mileage, because it took me an hour and a half to drive to their, you know, preferred location that was not in my community to go do this fingerprinting, right? So I reached out and I was like, maybe you guys should consider getting a business mentor instead of a nutritionist, because stringing people along like that is super uncool. Like, obviously I'm not going to like throw them under the bus or say who they are or whatever, but still, it took me a while to decide if I was actually going to like stand up and say something to them, but I did. I finally decided, like, this is not okay. Like, they can't treat their other consultants, quote unquote, this way. They can't treat their employees this way. Like, this is uncool, and I want them to know that what they've done was, you know, not okay with me. Yes, Heather, I know. Okay, so she was at the boot camp last time. Which boot camp? Refresh my memory. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, just tell her, like, hey, if you don't show up for this meeting, you know, obviously if she's, you know, well and not ill or something, like, just tell her, like, hey, you know, I've got to reserve this time for paying clients, like people who are going to pay. Oh, she was at a gym boot camp. So, okay, so she's able-bodied right now, so she's just a flake for whatever reason. So maybe just tell her, just be like, hey, maybe you could tell her one of two things, like, hey, I have a cancellation policy, so if you cancel on me, you know, within 24 hours or something, I have to charge you $25 or $50 or whatever your hourly rate is, or whatever you decide that you want that money to be. And that'll either likely end her flaking, or at least it'll be worth your time. You know what I mean? But I would definitely tell her, just be like, I know that you've missed the last few meetings, but I typically, you know, because I could be having somebody else in that time slot, I have a cancellation policy, and it's this. And I feel like that's fair. And she could very well, I'm sure, like, every person has a smartphone. She can put it in her calendar on her phone to get a reminder. She can set an alarm clock, whatever it is, to remember. So, but I mean, I know it's kind of like hard when you're like, I'm really excited about this new possibility and starting this new journey, and, you know, especially starting some new income. But think about it like this, is she going to be holding you back from earning in the future because she forgot, or she's too busy to get with you on the things that you need to complete a task? Because one thing that I think is super, super, super annoying is, like, yes, baby, just a few minutes. Maddie's asleep. What's super annoying to me is that people, hang on one second. I accidentally pressed something. If you set the tone for people to treat you a certain way, they'll always try to treat you that way. So if you set the tone for her that she can always flake on you and always be late and always kind of take advantage of your time and your kindness, she's always going to do that. You think she could potentially be a time suck? Yeah. No, it's not. It doesn't sound bad. People can be that way. People are like that. Like, and especially if they think like, oh, well, I'm going to be paying Heather, so I can, you know, if I flake on her, it's no big deal. It is a big deal because, one, you know, if you're setting your income around what she's, you know, laying out for you, that's a big deal for you. That's a big deal for your family. And it's a big deal for you too from like a frustration standpoint and a respect standpoint, that she just thinks that it's okay to just cancel on you at the last minute or forget about you at the last minute. And a lot of times, you know, like, Easton, stop with your feet, please. A lot of times if you allow that to go on, it's going to hinder you from doing the service that she's hiring you for. And then she's going to be like, well, how come you haven't gotten this to me? And I've seen this happen over and over and over, time and time again, where somebody's like, how come this didn't get done? And you're like, well, I've been waiting on you for 3 weeks to give me that report, or waiting on you for 3 weeks to make a decision. And for whatever reason, most of the time they don't see it that way. They're like, well, you should have just done it. You should have just gotten it done, blah, 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 blah. And then it ends up making you feel even worse than if you had just said like, hey, this is it. So even like in some of the automations that we're going to be teaching, like in the Recipe for Success, like you can even set up like an automated email that like on the 15th of every month, just say like, I don't know what this person does for their business or what kind of service you'd be providing, but maybe you have to do reports, right? And the reports are due on the 20th. So if you don't, you can set up an automation that's just a reminder that every month on the 15th, it emails this client like, hey, just a reminder, if you haven't already, please submit your this, that, and whatever type of report, you know, in order for me to have the, you know, data compiled for you by the 20th. Then it's like a constant reminder to them. So if you find that people are just really overly busy, but they really do value your service, you can set up an automation. But you do, I think if you set the boundaries and set the expectations from the beginning, it makes it a little bit easier. So like what I've started doing is when I get on a call with somebody, I tell them like, okay, so this is a free call, you know, for the 15-minute calls. And I didn't used to do this. And so my 15 or 30-minute calls would sometimes end up, you know, an hour or 90 minutes. And partly that's my fault. Like I totally own that because I'm a talker. And, you know, and even still, if I get going and we're having a good conversation, I won't just be like, okay, time's up. But I do, you know, especially if I have somebody else scheduled after, I do have to start limiting, you know, the amount of time I spend. So I've set the expectation from the beginning. This is a free 15-minute call. I want to learn about your business. I want to learn about what you're struggling with and how I can give you support today with, you know, let me know what you need that support with. I'm not going to sell you anything at the end of the call. If time allows, like, and I only say this if I know time allows, if I've got another call back to back to back to back, because I'm getting a lot more calls lately, then I'll say, you know, if you want to learn about working together, we can schedule another call at the end of this one. And that sets the tone for the call. It sets their expectation of me. It sets my expectation of them that, you know, we have a time limit. This is what I need to know. This is what I'm going to give you. And then we're going to end the call. If you want to have another call, we'll go ahead and schedule that. And I know it sounds like probably counterintuitive to set up another call to talk about working together. But almost every person who I've set up another call later on, if they actually show up for that call, they end up working with me because they actually wanted to, right? They wanted to get on that next call. They wanted to spend that time together, and it was worth waiting a day or, you know, till the next day or later that day. Or even one gal who I just adore, I don't think I talked to her for like 2 weeks after her first call. And now she's like one of my Recipe for Success rock stars. So I know that it sounds like, especially if you come from network marketing, it sounds like super counterintuitive to do it that way, but I promise that it works really good. And it also takes the pressure off of you on that first call. It takes the pressure off of your client. Like they can go implement that first thing and be like, oh my God, this totally rocked. Like, now I need to see, you know, like what else there is. So that's getting into a whole different training of, you know, sales. But setting those boundaries at the beginning of those calls, I feel, is super important. Setting the boundaries, like when you're even going to be doing a training call or a challenge, like, here's what you can expect. Here's what I expect from you. Like, this is what I expect from you in order to win. Like, if you have a contest going on or like a prize for your challenge, like, and I think that we're afraid of coming off harsh. Please stop kicking, Easton. Hey, please stop kicking. Yes, we don't kick in the car. It sets the expectation. Then nobody's disappointed, and nobody, I feel like us as business owners, the ones setting the expectations, the ones saying, this is how it's gonna go, we get a little intimidated because we feel like that's off-putting to our clients. When really, if I, you know, like, I guess raise your hand here. Tell me if that was off-putting. Like, hey, this is your 15-minute call. We've got 15 minutes together. I want to learn a little bit about you. I want to learn what you're struggling with. And then I'll give you your action item to implement. I don't feel like that is abrasive. I feel like it sets the tone and sets the expectations without being, I don't feel like it's abrasive at all. I don't feel like it's off-putting. I feel like, if anything, it's like, oh, okay, because I wasn't really sure what to expect here. I wasn't exactly sure how this was going to go. So that, I think, sounds good too. It's kind of like, and even I thought about just today, like when I send out the email reminder for someone who sets up a call with me, whether it's a free call or a paid call, if you know, like, especially the 15-minute call, like, if you are not on the phone within 5 minutes of our start time, the call is forfeited. Like, I just, you know, due to the you know, that's a third of the call already missed. So I'm going to start putting that in as like, hey, if you don't show up, plan on me not being on the phone. If you show up at 10 after, and we were supposed, you know, if your call was at 10 o'clock and you don't hop on till 10:10, I'm likely not going to be sitting there waiting for you. Obviously, if you're like a paid client and you show up a couple minutes late, you know, or whatever, yeah, I'm happy to make different accommodations. But, you know, that's kind of like when you show up late for a massage, for the most part, you know, like, obviously it's like, if you tell me, hey, I'm running 10 minutes behind and it works for my schedule, cool, no big deal. We'll just bump it 10 minutes late. But if I have somebody behind you, then it's like, all right, it's kind of like when you show up late for your massage. If you show up 20 minutes late for a 50-minute massage, you get a 30-minute massage. And just setting those expectations with people up front, I feel like, and I say expectations, but ultimately it's setting a boundary. And then there's no confusion later. Like, well, I was supposed to be on a call with you and you cut me short. Well, yeah. Remember we talked about, like, and maybe you put it in your contract, like if you have contracts or whatever, you put it in your contract that if you don't show up for your call, you forfeit it. Or, you know, like if you completely just flake on it, like the lady today who wasn't on the call, like, she forfeited her free call. Like, sorry, I mean, hopefully she's okay. And everything's, you know, that she's not ill or, you know, something bad didn't happen. Like, obviously I hope that, but, you know, I had to be on the show. I had to do a few different things. I'm about to go do my workout, which I know some people are probably like, well, you could probably just skip your workout. But here's the thing about that too. I'm setting boundaries on that. I'm setting boundaries for myself that I'm making the time to do my workouts. One, because they make me feel better. Two, because I've felt like a slug lately and I want to get back to feeling like myself. And three, how I schedule my time is up to me. Like, that's kind of the other cool thing about being a business owner is I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want. Yeah, we do need that time for us. And it's hard at first to understand that. You feel like, oh, well, when I'm earning X amount of dollars a month, then I can start making time to work out. Then I can start making time to meal prep. Then I can start making all this time. But the truth is, I don't know if you guys caught the Moms Making Money show with Barbara. Easton, please stop kicking my chair for the very last time. You're making me upset. Thank you. That's real life, you guys. Mom duty. But Barbara, you know, and I talked about on the show that if you start taking care of yourself, and put that as a priority even before your business, that you show up better in your business because you have more confidence in yourself. You feel better about yourself. You're starting to make those changes. Like for me, like I have some baby weight that I want to lose. The more baby weight that I focus on losing and get lost, the better off I feel, so I can show up for you guys better. I can show up in my business better. I'm setting boundaries around the hours that I work. I'm going to be working on having like an 11 or 12 hour work week, you know, as far as like doing client calls and different things like that. And, you know, the group coaching calls and the Moms Making Money show, because I want to focus just that time on getting the work done so that I can be a better mother the rest of the day and not have to worry about like, oh, someone's texting me. It's like, I'm going to set those boundaries. Like I'll be checking emails and I'll be checking messages between this time and this time. And that's it. And most people have no problem with that. Most people have zero problem with that. They're like, oh, okay, I can expect that Amy's going to be checking my email either between 10 and 11 in the morning or 3 and 4 in the afternoon or whatever time that is, right? And as long as you return their email within like, you know, 24 hours or less, most people are relatively pleased with that. I think that when MLMs first got started, it was like, you have to be on your phone, you have to be on your phone, you have to respond right away or they're going to go buy from someone else. It's not really true. There's something that attracted them to you in the first place, something part of your journey, something that you've overcome, something that they relate to you on. They'll wait. And if they don't, do you really want to work with that person anyways? Like, probably not. But okay, my lovelies, I want you to know you have permission to set the boundaries. You have permission to take a step back from relationships and people who are toxic to you, who make you feel bad, who hurt your feelings. You have permission to be driven crazy by your tiny children. We're getting ready to go in here to our workout. So thank you, Heather. So get out there, set your boundaries, stand up for yourselves, and don't let people treat you in a way that's not in alignment with how you'd like to be treated. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.